So today we're going to talk about beets in the two different ways that you can cook them. So you can either roast them or boil them. So boiling beets, there's two ways that you can do that. Either you can boil them whole, so just take them, plop them in some water, and boil them right through, or you can go ahead and peel the skin off, cut them into the desired shape, and boil them through that way. So the benefits of boiling beets is that it gives you a smoother, more tender kind of texture, zero caramelization, zero that, crunchiness that you can get when you get in the oven. Roasting beets, the benefits are that you get a lot more flavor out of them, and you're able to really kind of get that caramelization action going. The downside of boiling and roasting beets whole, so if you're taking the whole piece without cutting it up, the downside is that it's going to take so much longer to cook. And when we go ahead and boil and roast them whole, you'll see exactly what I mean. The downside of peeling them and then cutting them, the downside of boiling and roasting beets whole, so when you have the whole vegetable like this, is that it's going to take forever to cook. It's large, it's dense, it's going to take a long time for the heat to go all the way through to make it tender. The upside of cooking them completely whole is that you leave the skin on, and it will really kind of help with the skin removing process, because when you go to peel it first when it's raw, the beet juices are going to get everywhere, and it's going to stain absolutely everything. So that's one of the benefits, is that when you do take it out of the water when it's boiling, or when you do take it out of the oven when it's roasting whole, it becomes a lot easier to just kind of wipe that skin off. Another downside of roasting beets whole is that they're going to be very different shapes and sizes. So that means that they're going to cook at different times, which means a little bit more babysitting and a little bit more of just kind of constantly having to check the different sized beets to make sure that they're all cooking all the way through. And so what I mean is that if you got a beet like this, and then you have a beet like this, obviously they're all going to be cooking at different times. This guy is going to take forever to cook, whereas this guy's going to come out of the oven first, and now you're managing different cooking times. That same thing goes for boiling. The benefits of peeling and cutting beets and then going ahead and cooking them, whether it's boiling or roasting, is that you're really cutting down on the amount of time that it's going to take to cook that beet. So let's go ahead and see what we're working with. So if we're going to boil beets whole, there's not a whole lot of stuff that we got to do to them first. So the biggest thing is we want to make sure that we keep the root on, and try not to make too many cuts, because if we do cut through the skin, it's going to start to bleed. But we do want to make sure that we kind of pick some of these little root guys off. And what I'm really doing is just kind of scraping at them a little bit, because I don't really want to cut, because that's going to cause the beet to bleed, and that will make everything absolutely red. So I just trimmed it off a little bit, cleaned it up. It's nice, whole, pretty much ready to go. For boiling, you want to make sure that you have a pot that's the right size. If the pot is too big, you'll need more water to cover the beet fully, which means it will take more time for water to boil. If the pot is too small, there won't be enough water to help cook the beet all the way through. So here you can see me filling up the pot. I could probably fit 1 to 2 more beets comfortably for this size pot. The way you know you have enough water is when the beet is completely covered and has maybe ½ an inch of water on top of it. Once your pot is full, we want to put it on a high heat setting and cover with a lid. What the lid is going to do is prevent the heat from escaping and speed up the boiling process. Once water reaches a boil, the lid will help keep the heat and pressure inside, which will help cook the beet faster without altering the texture or integrity of the vegetable. 20 to 30 minutes after your water starts to boiling is usually when I like to start checking the beets for doneness. You know it's done when you can easily stick a fork into the vegetable. I like to do it a few times from different sides just to make sure that it is cooked evenly. getting beets ready to roast them whole is going to be similar to getting them ready for when you want to boil them whole. Is we want to trim some of this stuff off here, so the roots and all the other kind of unedibles. Just going to kind of scrape away, making sure I don't really get too much of the skin, because as you can see, it's already starting to bleed a little bit. Just going to cut this main leaf off here, and then that's pretty much it. We are done. And then for beets whole, what we want to do is take some foil, and what the foil is going to do, it's really going to help conduct the heat to the beet and help cook it faster. So we're just going to wrap it up and throw it in the oven. So next thing we're going to do is get this beet ready to roast or boil by peeling it and then cutting it into smaller pieces. What that's going to do is make sure that it just cooks a lot faster. So when peeling and cutting beets, what I like to do is to wear gloves, just because beet juices get everywhere, things get stained, and I just don't want my hands to be red. So some people do not prefer this method just because of how much harder it is to take the skin off. Because when the vegetable is raw, it is definitely a lot harder to take the peel off. So we're just making our way right around the vegetable. Get the bottom as well. And as you can see, the juices are already getting everywhere.
Next, we want to cut the beets into even medium-sized pieces. I'll have a separate video on knife cuts linked down below that will walk you through getting that perfect uniform cut. For now, let's fast forward me cutting through this. For roasting beets, you want to add a little bit of oil since beets are such a dry vegetable. How much you add depends on you. I like to measure mine out so I can track how much I'm consuming. Really what we're looking for is a nice light coating. Also add salt and pepper to taste. You're welcome to add any herbs and spices at this time. I'll be talking about herbs, spices, and regional flavor profiles in a future video series. But the amount of spice that I like to put on is just enough to cover the top surface area before mixing in. Lastly, spread the beets out evenly on the pan and put them into a preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. You can turn your oven up if you want more caramelization on your beets. Just remember, a hotter oven doesn't always mean a faster cooking time. Boiling peeled and cut beets is the same as boiling whole beets. You want the right size pot and just enough cold water to cover. And of course, don't forget to add salt. Put on high heat. You have the option of covering with a lid to get the water boiling faster. However, once at a boil, I like to remove the lid and release some of that pressure.
So our beets are done boiling. They're done roasting. So I'm going to show you how to go ahead and take the skin off of them. So we have the roasted one right here. It's still a little bit hot because I took it out of the oven. The boiled one was done first, so it's had a little bit of time to cool. So you definitely want to make sure that you give them about 5-10 minutes to cool so you don't burn your hands. And the benefit, like I mentioned earlier about cooking these whole, is that if you take a paper towel and even the slightest movement is going to make skin come off. So you can do it with a paper towel, or you can also take a paring knife and it will actually come off much easier as well. And then we're finally going to cut this root off. Okay, so there's one beet. Let's do the roasted one. Now the roasted one, like I said, I just took out of the oven. And same thing, we can either take a paper towel and do that, or take a knife and just kind of very gently scrape at it. And you don't need to exert a lot of pressure with the knife. As you can see, if you do, it's going to start taking the whole vegetable part. So you very gently just want to scrape at it. Again, I'm going to take the root and cut a very small part of it off. This is why I recommend wearing gloves when dealing with beets, is because everything gets stained. Okay. And that's it. That's how you have completely peeled beets. So the other benefit that you have of having these already pre-cooked is that it's a lot easier to cut them. So you can see the knife goes right through. I'm able to work a lot faster.
To compare the two different methods of cooking, there's a couple of things that we can see. So looking at this picture, we have the boiled beets on the left and the roasted beets on the right. When cooking them whole, you can see there's not a lot of difference in change of shape or size, and it also takes about the same amount of time to cook. However, if you decide to pre-peel and pre-cut your beets before cooking, there's definitely going to be a difference in texture, shape, and size. Boiled beets will retain their shape and their size. It's the fastest way of cooking because the beet pieces are constantly being agitated by the hot, boiling water, therefore allowing the heat to penetrate faster. The texture you're going to get is a very soft and tender beet. Roasted beets will lose a lot of their shape and size. The whole process of roasting results in loss of moisture. I have a whole separate video on the basics of roasting that will be linked down below. The benefit, however, is that the beets will be a lot more flavorful due to the longer cooking time that really allows for that caramelization.
All right, so that's it. That's how you cook beets. You want to boil them, roast them, cut them, cook them whole. This is kind of how you end up at your final destination.